We are going to get started because we are going to have a really good conversation tonight. So first, I would like to hand it off to our gracious host for this evening, Eben Sheaffer.
All right, thank you very much, Amanda. Thanks, folks, for joining, and for people, anyone who's joined on Facebook. Just wanted to say that, you know, we held Alyssa and I held a fundraiser for Run for Something last year on our terrace, a cookout. It was wonderful. We were planning to do it again this year, but unfortunately, the pandemic has interfered with those plans. But we're very happy that we're able to host the virtual fundraiser for Run for Something. I can tell you that, you know, I was searching for an organizations to support, and I really found Run for Something to be perhaps the most efficient use of money for the impact that it creates. And that's why just really impressed with Amanda and Ross and the whole team there, and what you guys are able to do with limited resources. I wish that you could have more resources, because the change that you could affect, it would just be truly astounding. So that's just my short intro. And Alyssa, anything else?
Yeah, also thanks to everyone who's here. Very glad you're joining us. I'm going to introduce Amanda Litman, who is the co-founder and executive director of Run for Something, which is a political action committee that helps recruit and support young, diverse progressives running for down ballot office. Previously, Amanda was the email director for Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign. She was digital director for Charlie Crist's 2014 Florida gubernatorial campaign, and deputy email director for Organizing for Action, and an email writer for Barack Obama's 2012 re-election campaign. She graduated from Northwestern University in 2012 with a BA in American Studies. She lives in Brooklyn with her dog Sadie, rescue dog, adopt, don't shop, and you can find her on Twitter at Amanda Litman. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Eben and Alyssa. We are so grateful for your support and for your generosity hosting this event. And I'm so thankful to everyone who's joined us. This is our last event of the cycle, which is overwhelming and exciting. So before we kick it off, I do want to say a special thank you to the Run for Something development and events team, Robert Rossi and Marcia Gonzalez, who made an entire year's worth of virtual events possible, and who did it capably and nimbly and extraordinarily well, and in a way that was really productive for our team, and really, I hope, interesting for you at home. So if this is your first Run for Something event or your last for the cycle, you have them to thank. So thank you to Robert and to Marcia. For those of you who are new to Run for Something, my name is Amanda Litman. I'm one of the co-founders and the executive director. Run for Something exists to recruit and support young, diverse progressives running for local office. We were born out of the ashes of the 2016 election almost 4 years ago. When we launched, we thought we'd get 100 people who wanted to run. Instead, in the first week, more than 1,000 people signed up. And as of today, we're up to more than 62,000 young people all across the country who have said they want to run for local office, either now or one day in the future. I am thrilled and overwhelmed and excited by the fact that we have 525 endorsed candidates on the ballot right now. More than 35 million Americans can vote for a Run for Something candidate this year. Our 2020 class is 52% Black, Indigenous, people of color, 56% women, 23% LGBTQ+. There are 30-something Gen Zers, people under the age of 25. They are across 48 states. 2/3 of them are running for state legislature. 9 of our state legislative candidates are running in districts where Democrats have not fielded a candidate in more than 2 cycles. These people are amazing. So if you are looking for hope, if you are looking to feel energized about the state of politics right now, and if you are looking for something to look forward to on November 3rd, no matter what happens with the White House, which is obviously incredibly important, but if you're looking for something to look forward to and something to be hopeful about, the 525 Run for Something candidates we're working with are that bright spot. I am thrilled tonight to be joined by three amazing candidates and alumni, each of whom will knock your socks off with their stories. We are going to jump right to it. First, I am really excited to introduce Jessica Harrington. Jessica is a proud public school teacher and union member running for state representative in Florida's 64th district. For years, Jessica has been a fierce advocate in her community for public education, the environment, equality, and justice. For far too long, you say, Jessica, Tallahassee has been run by a network of politicians that are funded by corporate donors and lobbyists. Too many lawmakers in Tallahassee do not represent hardworking Floridians. That's about to change. Every day, Jessica works in her classroom to educate the next generation of leaders. Now, it's time to educate our lawmakers by sending a teacher to Tallahassee. Jessica is running to flip an open seat in the state legislature red to blue, a critical seat we need in the Florida State House. And I am so excited to have her here tonight. Jessica, take it away.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I can't believe we are just 1 week away from the big night. I mean, we have been working so hard for this moment. And so again, my name is Jessica Harrington. I hail from Tampa, Florida, on the I-4 corridor, which is one of the most critical parts of Florida when it comes to elections and when it comes to the presidential election, especially. So I decided to run for office 28 months ago. I put my name on a ballot that hadn't been where the representative that was in the seat had not been challenged in a decade. And, after the 2016 election, I made a decision that I was going to get more involved in my state and local races, because I'm one of those people, I'm so guilty of not looking all the way down the ballot and understanding what happens with those state and local seats. Because the further down the ballot you go, definitely the more of an impact these candidates and these representatives have on your life. So a little bit about me, I was born and raised here in Florida. I went to the University of Florida, so go Gators. And, I decided to become a teacher because I wanted to give back to my community, and education is so important. If anybody knows, what's been happening in Florida, we are pretty much the race to the bottom when it comes to funding for education, for healthcare, and our public school system has really taken a devastating blow from our lawmakers. So I decided to run in 2018. Was when I first put my name on the ballot. I was still teaching full time. I did not have a campaign, did not have, a wonderful organization like Run for Something kind of guiding me at that time. And it was really tough, but we came within within striking distance of flipping a seat that no one had challenged in so long, and a seat that people had told me I could never do it. I could never raise the money. I could never get the votes. And we almost did. So I'm back now in 2020 to finish the job. And I'm so excited to be part of the Run for Something community, because again, if we want to win these seats, we want to get more young people elected to office, we need to run. So that is the whole purpose of this organization, is making sure that young people are running for office and they have the resources and the knowledge and the training and everything they need. So I'm so grateful, for this opportunity to be part of Run for Something. My race has kind of taken a little bit of a turn in the past few weeks. I was running against the author of the Florida poll tax. So if anybody knows about something, what happened in 2018 here in Florida, voters overwhelmingly passed something called Amendment 4, which allows people that have served their time, once they get out of being incarcerated, to be able to vote. Well, the guy I was running against, he was the author of the poll tax that said, you know what? If you can't afford to pay off all your fines and fees, then you don't get the right back to vote. So we know that voter suppression is real, especially in Florida, especially in states across the country. And so again, we are running for office to stand up against voter suppression, to stand for equality and justice. And luckily for us in Florida, that person dropped out of the race just 2 months ago. So now I have this brand new candidate that I've been running against for 2 months. So it's definitely been a whirlwind, but we're keeping positive. We're in this fight to win, and I thank you so much for having me tonight. I definitely look forward to the questions. And if there's anybody out there that is thinking about running for office, you need to do it. because again, there's never going to be a perfect time. There was never a perfect time for me, but I felt it was my duty to get involved and to run and to be there on the ballot and inspire others to run. So thank you so much for having me tonight, and let's go win this in 1 week from today.
Jessica, I am so excited to talk in a little bit about what it's like running against one opponent and then all of a sudden running against another. So maybe we'll come back to that in a little bit. Next up, I am thrilled to introduce Representative Jasmine Clark. Born in Atlanta, Georgia, Jasmine Clark has called Georgia home for over 30 years. With family ties deeply rooted throughout Georgia, including raising children there, Jasmine cares deeply about the future of the state. At a young age, Jasmine realized her passion for the sciences. This led her to pursue an education and career in microbiology, including receipt of her doctoral degree from Atlanta's own Emory University. She currently serves as faculty at multiple universities in the Atlanta area, with a focus on teaching and curriculum development. As the field of science requires strategic planning, problem solving, and attention to detail, her scientific background adds a unique and refreshing perspective to legislating in Georgia. Outside of the classroom, Jasmine has also been involved in community organizing and activism. She served as the director of the March for Science, held in Atlanta in April 2017. She continues to work with other groups, including the Georgia Alliance for Social Justice, on advocating for social justice issues. She believes that an inclusive Georgia is a thriving Georgia, and that there is no place for divisive rhetoric and discriminatory practices in Georgia's future. I am so glad to have Jasmine with us today. And why don't you take it away?
All right, I always forget to unmute myself. I apologize for that. Thank you so much, Run for Something, for everything that you have done. My name is Dr. Jasmine Clark, and I am running for Georgia's House District 108, which sits in Gwinnett County in Georgia. And for those who are unfamiliar with Georgia, Gwinnett County is the second largest county in the state, and it is also the most diverse county in the state. And so it is my honor and pleasure to be one of several representatives in the county. In 2018, I decided to run for office. And I got there by way of what many would consider a very unconventional route. You see, I have a PhD in microbiology, and I teach microbiology, anatomy and physiology, and pathophysiology to pre-health students at the Emory School of Nursing. So I'm definitely not what many would consider your typical politician. So a lot of people ask me, well, how did you get here? How did you decide to run for office? And the truth is, when Donald Trump was elected in 2016, it was a devastating moment for me. But that wasn't what got me to run for office. Shortly after the Trump inauguration, and by shortly, I mean literally the next day, the Trump administration began to attack science. I love science. I have always had a love for science pretty much my entire life, ever since I knew what science was. And so I took it personal. Although I am not a climate scientist, the attack on climate science and on academia and on facts and data and evidence, all of the things, the attack on those things was not something I could sit idly by and not do something about. But even still, I did not think I was going to run for office. That year, shortly after the Women's March, the scientists all across the country and all across the world decided to have a march of their own, the March for Science. The March for Science was held on Earth Day in 2017, and I was democratically chosen to be the leader of the March for Science here in Atlanta. And that moment when we got to the park and we're setting up, and you just don't know how many people are going to show up. So, you know, you get people to RSVP, you push it out, you market it, you advertise it as much as possible. But at the end of the day, you don't really know how many people care enough about what you want to march about to show up to this march. And so as people began to fill into the park, it was surreal. I couldn't believe that this many people cared that much about science. They would get up on a Saturday with their posters and march through the streets of Atlanta in the name of using science in order to drive policy making. And so even still, even though we had 10,000 people show up to that march, I still was not quite sure I wanted to run for office, but I definitely realized how impactful you can be when you decide to just put yourself out there and run for or do something that you probably never thought that you would do. That led me into more activism, where I joined the Georgia Alliance for Social Justice, and we advocated for different social justice causes. And that's when we're reaching out to these leaders in our community and expecting them to listen. And I think there was a moment then when I realized I'm tired of asking. And I think it is time that we get voices, advocates, science voices at the table, at the decision-making table. And so I decided very late in the game, at the beginning of 2018, that I would put my name on the ballot. And so I ran on a platform of bringing a science voice to the Georgia State Legislature and to bring that scientific perspective to policymaking in Georgia, something that I felt was sorely missing, a perspective I felt was needed, but was just absent. I am the only PhD scientist in the Georgia State Legislature at the moment. I think that will change in 2020 because we have some amazing candidates running for office this year. But altogether, that was my platform. And, you know, I didn't know if people would be open to having someone who is not your traditional politician representing them. But that is the platform that I ran on, and that is the platform that I won on. I beat an incumbent in a race that was very close, actually one of the closest races in Georgia, where every vote truly did count. And that is what I told voters when I went to their doors. And so it was so exciting to be able to have the opportunity to meet so many constituents, hear their concerns, and know that if I were elected, that I would really take those concerns to heart. And so after the election, after I won, I used that science voice in order to advocate for things like voting rights, education, higher education, common sense gun legislation, and so much more. And so I realize now, looking back on it, that although it was not traditional, it was not conventional, it was not something that people would say, oh, she's definitely going to be a politician when she grows up. That's not where I came from. And a lot of people who are listening to this or tuning into this, you may be feeling that same way. You may be feeling like I'm not built to be a politician, or nothing that I do or nothing in my background really people wouldn't vote for me. And I think we have to realize that when you give people something to vote for, then they will come out for you. And so that is why I love what Run for Something is doing. I love that Run for Something endorsed me in both 2018 and now in 2020 as well. And I appreciate these type of forums so that we can continue to get those progressive voices in positions of leadership in our communities, at the decision-making tables, so that we can push for policies that are better for everyone's quality of life, that really promote a higher quality of life for every single person and not just the few and the powerful. And so again, thank you so much for having me tonight. I really do appreciate it. And I look forward to any questions, if there's any questions later on. I just really, truly appreciate this opportunity and what Run for Something is doing. And I appreciate and hope that next week, I will continue to be the state representative for Georgia's House District 108 in Lilburn, Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Clark. I am so grateful for you spending the time with us tonight. I have so many questions about what it's like being a member of the Georgia State Legislature and how your re-elect is a little different than your first campaign, but we will get to that momentarily as well. Finally, I want to introduce our third panelist for this evening, Representative Brianna Titone. Brianna is a geologist and an IT professional by trade who has lived in Jefferson County, Colorado for more than 10 years. She has served our communities her entire life, first as a volunteer firefighter, an HOA president, and more recently in Democratic Party leadership positions. She hopes to continue this service as she serves as Colorado's first openly trans statewide representative and to fight for all Coloradans to live healthy, productive, and meaningful lives. Representative Titone, take it away.
Well, thank you, Amanda. Great to be with you today. Run for Something was an organization that really came through for me in 2018 when I was running. And I didn't have a lot of support in the beginning. And that was, it was really important for me to get people on my side. And I'll tell you a little bit about my race. When I was running in 2018, it was because of a lot of service that I've done for my community. I've always done volunteer work, and I really had it in my heart to find a way for me to really give back. And in 2017, someone suggested that I run for office, and I was like, well, I'm a trans person. Who would ever elect me? And it wasn't until that year in the November election where Danica Rome was elected to the Virginia House of Delegates. And that gave me the courage to run for office in Colorado. Now, the office that I now hold was a district that was designed to be a Republican district. This was after the 2010 census, Democrats were in control, and they drew this district to be a Republican district. And it was very, very heavily conservative for many, many years. So when people saw that I was running for office, they said, "Oh, wow, good for you. That's really nice. You're never going to win." And I said, "Okay, whatever. We're gonna work really hard, and we're gonna win this race." And everyone just kind of watched, and we saw that we had a lot of heart, and we had a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in the race, and we knocked on 50,000 doors. And Run for Something was one of the organizations that really got behind me to spread the word about my race and to give me a platform where, as a first-time candidate, I really didn't have. And that was super important for me because in a race like mine, you're really just kind of swept under the rug and forgotten about. And even on election day, I was actually losing. We have all mail-in ballots in Colorado, which is a really great thing, but it's not very good when people drop their ballots off on the last day. And we had almost 20,000 people drop off their ballots or vote in person on the last day. And those ballots took quite a while to count. So on election night, I was losing to my opponent. And it wasn't until Thursday that I had enough votes to be declared the winner. And it's been a really great experience being the legislator here in House District 27. The view behind me is the northwesternmost part of the district. We're right on the Front Range in Colorado, just a little northwest of Denver. And it's a very 50-50 district, so it's really hard to make everyone happy. But when we knocked on all those doors, the 50,000 doors that we reached and we talked to, it wasn't every door, but we had thousands and thousands of conversations with people. And we told them about my qualifications as a scientist. I have 4 degrees: physics, geology, geochemistry, and information communication technology. We told them about my volunteer experience. We told them about what I believe in. Was very open and honest and transparent about where I stood on the issues. I told people that I wasn't going to vote on everything that they wanted me to vote for. And that's really something that was an authentic message that people really resonated with. People had a lot of ill conceived notions about their politicians. They look at federal politics and they say, oh, federal politics is a bunch of crooks and people doing stuff for money and yada, yada, yada. There's not a very good perception of the politicians at the federal level. And the money in politics is a big problem, which we do need to fix. But what really, really resonates with people when we talk to them is to tell them about why local politics is so important. And Run for Something is great because they're promoting and helping elevate so many of the younger candidates who we really need. We really need those younger candidates to get in and run, to push the limit, to challenge the status quo, and to energize the voting base of the younger voters. And the younger voters tend to not turn out as much as the older group. My district is very older, so we have a huge turnout. In 2018, we had about 75% turnout in the district, which is very, very high. We're expecting closer to 80 to 85% this year. So we're looking around 60,000 votes that will be cast in my district, which is incredibly large. But it's just really important for us to be able to get in front of people, to inspire people, and give people the opportunity to ask questions. So please ask those questions in the Q&A. We're happy to do that, and we're happy to be here to get the next generation of people out to run for office and to vote for all those down ballot candidates, which really make a difference in the community. There's so many things that I do as a state representative that the federal level people have no idea what's going on about. We take care of people's constituent services. We help people out on a daily basis. And who is in charge in your district and who represents you is really, really important, because you want the person who's in office to work hard for you. And the candidates that I've met that are Run for Something candidates, really, really hardworking people who really care about the community and want to see the community change for the best. And that's what we're all about. And that's where we're really going to strive. And we want more people to run for office. So let this be a starting point for you. If you feel inspired, contact Run for Something. Contact, if you're an LGBT candidate, the Victory Fund. If you are a woman candidate, Emerge is a good group. There's lots of groups that will help you, and you don't have to just go with one. You can go with all of them, just like I did, and all that support is going to really add up to a win for you. So take advantage of all the people who want to help you and get you going, because we're here for you and we're here to help you. So I will take it back over to Amanda and have some questions.
Amazing. We're going to bring up all of our panelists. So Jessica, Representative Clark, I know I have some questions for you. I see a couple questions in the Q&A queue. And if you have any questions when you're watching at home, drop them in the Q&A function or drop them in comments on Facebook, and we will grab them for there as well. Jessica, the first question here is for you from Karen. What happened to the plan to pay fines for felons? And more broadly, can you give sort of a state of play, so to speak, on the restoration of rights for felons to be able to vote, former felons to be able to vote in Florida?
Yeah, so the group that headed up Amendment 4 and really has helped our returning citizens with these fines and fees, they're called the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition, and it's headed by Desmond Meade. And Michael Bloomberg, when he decided to donate money to help pay those fines and fees, a lot of the Republicans in our state cried foul, because they thought that it was trying to kind of swing an election. We are one of the biggest swing states. We are the biggest swing state in the country, and that's just not the case. The problem here in our state is that there's a law now that says they must pay their fines and fees, but there's no system to tell returning citizens even what they owe. And there's really no way for them to really pay them. So it is going to court right now. But again, we are doing everything we can to get those returning citizens to vote. So that's what's been happening. But right now it's going to court, and I don't think anything will really come of it before the election, though, unfortunately.
Brianna and Jasmine, I would love to hear from each of you. Obviously, the pandemic introduces an additional level of change here, but how is your re-election different than your first campaign? How did you approach it differently? What about it is different? What have you learned in the last 2 years about politics that has changed the way you think about this? Brianna, maybe we'll start with you.
Sure. We had to make a decision about how we were going to do our election because we wanted to make sure that people felt safe. We wanted to make sure that our volunteers felt safe and my staff felt safe. So we talked to some experts. My campaign manager used to work at NIH, so he knows a bunch of scientists down there, and I know an infectious disease specialist here in Colorado. So we talked to those experts on how we could run a field campaign and do it safely. And we were one of the only campaigns that actually was going out knocking on doors and doing it safely. My opponent was going out knocking doors without a mask on, which actually has ended up backfiring a little bit on her because we talked to those same people and they're like, I don't know why she wasn't wearing a mask. It really turned me off. So we were knocking doors, but we didn't want our volunteers to do it if they didn't feel comfortable. So we had to really take off of the conversations and bring those onto the phones. And we did a lot of lit dropping, which a lot of people did. And we had to beef up our digital program. And fortunately, this year we had a sufficient amount of money because of an attack ad that came out against me, a transphobic attack ad that ended up raising me enough money for me to get a cable ad. So we turned those lemons into lemonade, and that's how we're reaching people. But being the state rep for the last couple of years definitely helps with name recognition. So definitely have that momentum on my side.
And similar to Brianna or Brianna, I'm sorry, Brianna. Similar, we definitely had to take COVID into account. So, re-election is already going to be different than running for the first time anyway. I think one of the biggest differences for me, one of the biggest shocks to the system for me, and I'm pretty sure the COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated this, was the fact that I still needed to do constituent services because I am the representative now, while I also am trying to run for office. And so we had a pandemic. And in the pandemic, we had unprecedented numbers of unemployment, and our state did not handle the unemployment as good as maybe they could have. And so I was flooded. I was literally inundated daily with hundreds of emails about unemployment. Where's my unemployment? What do I need to do? Trying to run a campaign while also trying to deal with that was definitely unique. But that's where having a good team came into play. And eventually we got through it. The backlog and unemployment is still there, but the number of emails has decreased significantly. Being the PhD scientist that happens to be a microbiologist, that happens to be a virologist, one thing that I was not going to do was go out here and spread a deadly virus between all of the people that I'm asking to vote for me. And so I did not knock on any doors. This was in direct contrast to my opponent, who was knocking on doors. And not only was he knocking on doors, but he was knocking on doors without a mask and without taking any precautions whatsoever when he would approach voters. And so you know, it was at that point after I got so many messages, so many emails, so many Facebook messages, so many, you know, just telling me like, I can't believe this guy actually did this. And, you know, I just had brain surgery and I'm extremely immunocompromised right now because of the medicines I'm on. And I feel like that was really reckless of him. You know, after that, it really solidified that even though it was going to be harder to run a campaign this way, it had to be done. And so running a campaign in a pandemic means you're going to spend a whole lot of time trying to contact voters in other ways besides the doors. So we spent a lot of money on mail, and we spent a lot of money on lit, and we did lit drops where we would just put the lid on people's doors, but we're not actually knocking. We spent a lot of money on digital ads, you know, making sure that we got the word out digitally. Because of how close my race was in 2018, and because of how effective I was in my first term, where many people said, we do not want to lose you, we want to keep you here, we need your voice here in the state house. I was able to raise a significant amount of money, and I was able to use that money very effectively to get the word out. We did a lot of phone banking. We did a lot of, well, not as much text banking, but a lot of phone banking. I mean, we made tens of thousands of phone calls. We had hundreds of volunteers, whether they were on the phones, whether they were in the streets, whether, you know, they were writing postcards at home. Either way, we had so many volunteers that stepped up to help the campaign. And so even though I was not able to knock on doors, which I was really upset about, it was upsetting. It's not like I felt like I got out of something. I really did feel like I was missing something when I didn't get to knock on those doors. But I am eternally grateful for the volunteers that stood up and stepped up to help us run a safe campaign, you know, despite the challenges of running a campaign during an epidemic. And so, you know, I feel like in 2022, you know, when we're having this conversation again, maybe it'll be very different because you won't have COVID also, you know, murking the waters a bit when it comes to running for reelection. But for this time, I feel like I was just kind of thrown into the fire. But you know, I ran for office knowing that it would not be easy. And so you just make the best out of the situation and stand on your principles and know that when you do the right thing, not only will your own platform stand on its own legs, but your supporters will come out for you as well and let people know they support you and they want to see you representing them again.
And Jessica, your campaign had to adapt first to the pandemic and then to a switch in your opponent just like a month or two ago. Can you talk a little bit about what that did to your strategy and to your work?
Yeah, of course. So, you know, when you're running against pretty much public enemy number one of Florida, like the face of voter suppression, I mean, that was a very strong argument for our campaign was, you know, we have a teacher who teaches about the Constitution, who teaches about the Civil Rights Movement to middle schoolers. And then, you know, having an opponent that has been the worst of the worst in Florida, who has defunded education, who has, you know, slashed, you know, money for healthcare and our environment, all of these things. And so it did really change our strategy when this person left and they just kind of dropped in a new candidate. But we believe that, you know, it's going to help our campaign, if anything, because running against in an open seat is a lot different than running against an incumbent. And that incumbent had the family name of 35 years. It was pretty much a dynasty here in Florida with that same name. So we are really, you know, we're actually really excited to be able to run an open seat for the first, it hasn't been open for a decade. And so, yeah, strategy had to change. Messaging didn't have to change as much because we're still sticking to what we believe in, what we're fighting for. But it definitely has been tough. And, you know, the majority party here in my state, they definitely did not want to see this seat slip away. So they have actually, this is actually unprecedented, the amount of money that has been poured into this race. Almost $1 million has been poured into my race, mostly on attack ads against me. It's happening to Florida's candidates all across the state. But it's really, really sad that people can't come in and run on issues, that they have to spend money to attack people. So we've, been doing everything we can to defend ourselves here. We have, a place on our website that kind of fights the fiction. We've really ramped up our digital ad spending. We were able to scrape together some funds to get on TV. We're doing everything we can. But again, when you're running in a red leaning district, it's tough to fight the money, the private prison money that comes in, all these other things. But we are really confident that we have been, we've spent the last 28 months talking to voters, reaching out to people. Obviously the pandemic really put, a halt to some of the activities we were doing, but we're back out there again, and we are knocking doors safely. We do the whole strategy of, you hang the door hanger, you have your mask on, you knock, and then I step way far back. I mean, almost 10 feet or more, so I'm almost yelling, because I want to show people that I respect their space and that, we want to keep them safe. But people have been really appreciative of that. So we're going to keep, 7 more days. We're going to keep pounding the pavement here.
Amazing. I would love to hear Brianna, and I apologize, I've been mispronouncing your name. I'm very sorry. Brianna and Jasmine, a question from Eben. Besides unemployment insurance, which I imagine is one of the biggest things you're hearing about, what have you found to be the biggest constituent service need for your district? Brianna?
Yeah, and don't worry about the name. I answer to either one. We had our system actually was revamped to handle the unemployment insurance, and we did have quite a few glitches and hiccups in there, and we were able to fix some of those and help a lot of people out. But for the most part, I help a lot of people out with insurance issues. People can't get something covered, or something costs too much, or they stop covering the cost of their prescription drugs. It's sometimes, lobbyists get a bad rep, but I can call the lobbyist for the pharmaceutical company and I can get them to get my constituent a coupon for that medication. So, I'm going to use those connections that I have every time that I can to help those people in whatever way that they can. And that's one of the main things. Sometimes there's some families that have trans kids and their insurance company doesn't want to cover the medications. So, when they hit a wall and they can't go any further, that's when I call the insurance commissioner and I say, hey, let's meet with my constituent and figure out what we can do. And that ends up helping not only my constituent, but anybody else who has that same problem, because now the commissioner is aware of that problem. And anybody else who may call the commissioner or somebody else, and they have that same situation come up, they already know what to do. And they already have that thing solved, because these insurance companies, they try their hardest to not pay for stuff. And they know that people will end up giving up. And, that's why I keep telling everyone at the doors, I'm here to help you with whatever it is you need. If don't even think, if it's something that you think I can't help you with, just come and ask me, because I don't have all the answers, but I know people who do. And we can find those people to get those problems solved. So, constituent service is one of the things that people really resonated with the people in my district. And that's something that I have a really good reputation with. And, just like Jasmine, that's, doing a good job is how you get reelected. And when you're in we're both in tough districts. I won by 439 votes out of 50,000, and it's a tightrope. You walk a tightrope all the time, but you do really good work, and people recognize it, and they reward you with your vote the next time the election comes around.
I would say unemployment was definitely the majority of the volume of the issues that people reach out to me about. But I've also had people reach out to me for literally everything. I had people reaching out to me just to I mean, even from things that I could not necessarily fix, but I could at least get them to the right person. You know, their trash is not being picked up on time, or there's a pothole in the street that hasn't been fixed. All the way up to things like, you know, their insurance company, you know, did something that basically caused them to sign something they didn't realize they were signing until they got into a car accident. And now all of a sudden they have no coverage and they are stuck up the creek without a paddle. You know, I've had constituents that reach out to me about bills that I have sponsored. My first bill, and actually the majority of the bills that I did sponsor were what I consider constituent-led bills. And that is where a constituent called me up, they told me about something, we had meetings, multiple meetings, we talked about legislation, and then I introduced that legislation in an effort to try to fix an issue that they saw. So for example, my medically accurate sex education bill, that is a constituent-led bill. I had a bill that was about safe gun storage. And it ended up being, there was another bill that pretty much had identical language. So I did not drop that bill as myself as a sponsor, but I did have a constituent bring that to me. And that constituent actually was a student. I had students coming to me and saying, we do not feel safe going to school. What are you going to do to help us as students feel safe doing something that is supposed to be so normal and so regular? It is supposed to just be a part of our lives, and we fear walking into our schools. I had a constituent reach out to me about shared parenting, all types of things. And so I sponsored those bills for them. And so I would say there's not really one specific topic. I hear a lot about healthcare and healthcare costs and definitely prescription costs and things like that. And again, if it's not something I can personally do at the state level, I also, as constituent services, one of the things I feel I can do is that help you get to the right person. Because a lot of times people don't know who's in charge of this thing, who's in charge of trash delivery versus who's in charge of Medicare. People, I mean, all this stuff is so, complex and, in my opinion, unnecessarily complicated. And so one of the things I can do as a representative is just make it a little bit easier for people to navigate all the complexities. That is all the things that we have to deal with when it comes to, our daily lives and, the policies and processes involved in that. And so, that's what I would say. There's not really one thing. It's a lot of things. And I think that's the beauty of being a representative, is you really get to hear if you have your ear to the streets, if you're really listening to your constituents, you really get to hear what is concerning people in your area.
I have a question for all three of you, and we'll start with Jessica, Brianna, then Jasmine. What is the most rewarding part? And Eben phrased it like this, and it's good. What's the most rewarding part of running for office? And what is the hardest part? Jessica?
Oh, it's such a great question. Well, as a teacher, for me, I think running for office, the most rewarding part is just being a role model and inspiration to my students, and letting them know that, hey, anybody can make change in their community if they really want to and they really want to try. So just inspiring people to get more involved. The things that we have done in this community, I think, being invited to feed people, when the pandemic started, Feeding Tampa Bay was calling on volunteers, and being able to bring my team over and to help feed people. I mean, that's rewarding to give back to the community, but it's also rewarding to fight for, the things that you want to see in your community. So that, fighting against injustice and speaking out for those who feel that they don't have a voice, and giving space and giving a voice to others, I think is very rewarding. And I plan to do that when I'm elected, making sure that when I get that seat at the table, that I'm bringing my community with me and people that really haven't had the chance to be a part of that process. And I would say the hardest part about running for office definitely is the fundraising calls. I mean, I know it's not anyone's favorite part of it. It was definitely really tough for me. I mean, I'm a person that, pays, so much for my students' school supplies out of my own pocket. Like I never ask anyone, for school supplies. So having to make those donor calls, it was really tough. But at the end of the day, people were excited to have someone to be able to give to in this race, and thanking you for saying, wow, you are stepping up to run in a red seat, a seat that no one has ever challenged for. Thank you so much. So at the end of the day, it's all, you look at it and it's definitely challenging, but the rewards, I think, definitely outweigh the challenges. So.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Jessica that the fundraising calls are always difficult for me. Calls in general are difficult for me as a trans person whose voice doesn't match my name. It's always really awkward. Even sometimes at the doors, I'll have a piece of lit with my picture on it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I voted for Brianna." I'm like, "You voted for me?" Like it's me there. And on the phones, it's like, it's really awkward because everyone's like, what did you say? Like, what is your name? Say that again. And it's just really awkward and uncomfortable. And it wears down on me quite a bit. But fortunately, this year, I've had a lot more support, and I didn't have to do as much call time. Don't tell my campaign manager. I told him I did more than I did. But the most rewarding thing for me is, in 2018, when I was walking doors, and still this year at the doors, going to a door and knocking on the door, and the door opens up, and someone is just like elated that I'm standing in front of them, because it doesn't happen too often. But, because, people knew who I was as a trans person running for office, and there's not too many of us out there, that I was actually in their door, and they had a family member who was trans, and they followed what I was doing, and they were just really, really excited that I was there, and they were going to have a conversation with me and take a picture with me or something. And that was just really, really rewarding, because the campaign can be really, really tough. I mean, these next 7 days, I try to get out of walking if I can by, I have another meeting, I don't have, so I don't have to go. But, I was out there today, it was like 35 degrees, and I was walking doors, and, Jessica and Jasmine don't have to worry about the cold weather as much as we do here. But, when you're out there in the cold or the snow or the rain, you get a little bit of sympathy, which doesn't hurt. Because people really see that you're really trying really hard. So that's really what's the most rewarding thing for me, is just people saying thank you for running and for doing what you're doing, and for being a role model for a lot of their kids and for themselves too.
All right. So most rewarding thing, I'll start with the good. Most rewarding thing about running for office and about being a representative is just really seeing impact. I think I'm one of those people that I really, truly care about the legacy that I leave and the impact that I make. I want a trail that others will follow, and I want to lay that template. And so because of that, when I see the fruits of my labor, and sometimes it's something as simple as I'm in the grocery store and someone says, "Wait, are you Dr. Clark?" And, "Oh, my daughter loves science and she loves you." I had a constituent reach out to me. She was doing her daughter's hair, and her daughter has natural hair like mine. And her daughter threw on some glasses and was like, "Hey, look, I'm Dr. Jasmine Clark," and things like that make me realize that, like, sometimes even if I don't know, I don't know every person who may be watching. I want to know them, but a lot of times they're just people that are behind the scenes. They see what you're doing and they're inspired by it. And then if they happen to meet me and reach out to me, it's so rewarding for them to just say, like, thank you so much for what you're doing. Thank you so much for running. Thank you so much for, being a representative. Thank you so much for informing us of what's even going on and being so transparent. For the first time ever, I actually know what state government is doing. I never even knew who my representative was before. And now not only do I know them, but like, you talk to us, you answer our questions, you shop at the same store as us, and you don't act like a celebrity. The challenge, I agree with Jessica, 100% fundraising is not fun, even when you are an incumbent. It's just not a fun thing to do, to ask for money. But I would say another challenge, something that I'm dealing with, and I hope that we get past this in the future, is the vitriol, just how nasty and mean people are. I have had people stealing my signs. I've had, people send me really horrible messages. I've had people just act in a way that I'm like, I know you were raised better than that, or I hope you were raised better than that. And I really feel like sometimes people get a little bold when it's, when they think that you are someone who should, because of who you are, because I'm a representative, they automatically assume that I just have to have this tough skin and I should just be able to take it. And I think that's really hard for me, because I am a person that really truly cares about what people think, not because I want, because I care about what people think, but because I really want to be a good representative to everybody. And so it really is hurtful when you're trying to do your best and people are just so hateful and mean when they don't really have to be. And so that's the challenge, is just dealing with wanting to help everybody, but some people just don't even want to hear it, just because of the party you represent or what you look like, or what you stand for.
If nobody says it to you enough, before I get to my last question, I do want to say thank you to all three of you for running and for serving. It is so hard. And as you point out, people are nasty, people are mean, they attack you for who you are and what you believe. And you are doing something really brave. So from the entire Run for Something team, we are so grateful to you all for being brave enough to put yourself forward, because it's really hard. It's really fucking hard. So thank you. If people want to help you, and we'll do this in reverse order, so Jasmine, Brianna, and Jessica, what can they do in this final week to lend a hand? Hold on, I think you're muted still, Jasmine.
Sorry. If you would like to help, you can reach out to my campaign by going to my website, jasmineforgeorgia.com. No matter how you spell it, it will take you to the right place. But I like to say Jasmine, the number 4GA.com. And that will, there you will see where you can donate if you feel so compelled to spend a little bit of money for this final stretch. And you can also sign up to volunteer with phone banking, text banking. And if you're local to Georgia, we also have some paid opportunities, such as sign waving on Election Day.
Yeah, and I just want to also just say thank you for me being part of this inspiring group of people. It's been great getting to know Jasmine and Jessica. It's so funny how similar our races are, and how we run our districts. It's just really inspiring that there's other people who really have a good heart out there, who really want to do good work, and we're going to really set the bar for people that come after us, and it's really great. You can go to my website, briannaforcolorado.com. Similarly, Brianna for CO or Brianna for Colorado, or Brianna Titone. It's like it all kind of points to the same place. We have some phone banks that are coming up. We're always looking for people who want to do some GOTV dialing. If you're in Colorado as well, we have some honkin' waves, and we've got some lit drop opportunities, and we'll find something for you to do. If you want to volunteer, we'll definitely put you to work, because the 3 T's are necessary: the talent, the time, and the treasure. We appreciate all those things, because we couldn't win our elections without the support of the volunteers and all the hard work that they put in.
Again, I want to thank Amanda and the Run for Something community for just hosting us. It was great meeting these other candidates. I'm hoping to be able to follow in their footsteps, by flipping this district. And so again, we also at the Jessica Harrington campaign, we have opportunities to help phone bank. You can do that from anywhere in the country. We have people as far away as Seattle, Washington, phone banking for our race. And, we are, we have broken records here in the district. We've had over 64,000 people have already voted in my district, and we are pretty neck and neck with turnout. So our big goal is to reach as many of those nonpartisan voters, the ones that don't have an attachment to a party. So that's what we're doing. We're going to focus the next 7 days on reaching those voters. So you can make calls for us. You can go to jessica@harrington.org. You can also contribute there as well. We're definitely looking for that final push to the finish line. So any help would be greatly appreciated. You can also follow us on Twitter and other socials at JHFORFL, so JH for Florida. And definitely we could use your help. So thank you so much again for having us. And I had a lot of fun tonight. Thank you.
Thank you to Jessica, to Brianna, to Jasmine, to Eben and Alyssa for hosting us tonight. I will be emailing everyone tomorrow with links to all of their websites so that you can volunteer, chip in, and do whatever you can to help. If you want to support Run for Something, we're still facing down about $130,000 fundraising gap in our 2020 budget. So every dollar you can give goes a long way. The best place to go for that is runforsomething.net/build. We are so grateful to our candidates and alumni, to our hosts this evening, and to you for joining us. This is the kind of stuff that makes me feel oddly excited for Election Day, which is a weird way to feel. I mean, I want to throw up too, but mostly excited because I am so hopeful and optimistic about what the three of you and the hundreds of other Run for Something candidates across the country are going to deliver. So thank you. And thank you for joining us tonight. Have a good night, everyone.